not just any dragon, a Minecraft dragon, specifically the Ender Dragon, who I realize I've already made once before, but I kept calling her him and he looked nothing like her, so I figured why not do a do-over. Also, she's going to be climbing her way out of an end portal, which is why I'm using a set of sculpting blocks to mark out my confines so I can sculpt her within her blocky prison. Otherwise, a quick top coat of aluminium tape will keep her from sticking to the well-loved wooden blocks, and I can begin the embiggening of the body. Oh yeah, I forgot I added a wire. I wasn't sure if I was going to add any LEDs for her eyes, so I thought why not run a wire now, and if I don't need it, I can always chop it out later. However, with the wire in place, I can start bulking out her ample bosom with aluminium foil to reduce the amount of clay I'll need. Of course, I'm still going to need a hell of a lot of clay to thicken up her impressive midsection, but with her shiny metal core, I've at least cut that amount in half. Now, I know I said the last Ender Dragon looked nothing like her, and I'll admit this won't either, but I'll at least start out by trying to keep her general proportions in check by making her big boxy body first, then building out the rest of the shape from that. I also realized that I couldn't get to her side, so I've removed the portal walls to allow me to smooth her lumpy clay physique out before moving on to adding the details. At this point, I realize the wire is a waste of time, so I'll chop the excess away and replace it with a big lumpy upper jaw which can get blended into the neck before the bottom jaw can be attached. A couple more strategically placed lumps will get the head looking a little bit more menacing, and I can add a bit more shape to the torso as well as give her an aggressive lean to one side. I want her to be climbing out of the portal, and I think by giving her a big lean to the left, it should help give her the impression of movement. Then it's back to the head where I can start adding some proper detail. I'll remove the excess clay from inside her mouth and refine the shape of her lips. Now, as far as the eye placement is concerned, there are a couple options. You can make a standard dragon by putting the eye in the top in the middle, or a snake if you put the eye at the front. Or if you're feeling particularly spicy, you can make an extra derpy dragon if you put the eye just a little bit too low. I, however, am not feeling particularly spicy today, so it's back to option A before encasing it in a set of wormy dealies to build up the eyelids and surrounding ocular whatchamacallits. Then it's into the mouth where I'll spend a fair amount of time trying to make the inside of the mouth look realistic, only to realize just now that you can't actually see anything I'm doing. I'll then poke a couple smelling slots into the front of her face and begin the entoothening process by jamming some pre-baked teeth into the pre-poked tooth holes. And once I've got a full set of teeth, I can fit a tongue down the center to finish off the mouth, and I can start to add some detail to her torso. I decided to go with the old tried, tested, and true overlapping belly scales for the scales on her belly. Then using an extra long, extra wormy noodle drape from the back of her head down to the bottom of her torso, I can separate the two halves. Now at this point, I need to figure out what kind of scaly dragon texture I want for the rest of her skin, and while I could add individual scales one at a time, the very thought of doing that makes my balls itch. Fortunately, I have this little wooden cup filled with all my pre-made texture rollers. There's tiny snake scales, slightly larger overlapping scales, and random tiny bumps. However, the winner today is going to be these wonky, mostly random crater-looking scales. I can roll the roller over Jean's body, which will leave a lovely little indent and creating easy, near-instant texture that would otherwise take me more time than I care to contribute to any one project. A teeny tiny bumpy roller will add the last detail to her head, and I can fancy up her gums a little bit before going back to her chest scales to add some much needed striation, followed by lots of little hand-hammered bumps. Otherwise, once everything's looking adequately bumpy, I can put the side rails back in place and get to work making her arms. Because I've given Jean a mean lean, one of her arms is going to be slightly bent while the other one is almost fully extended. I've cut two wires of equal length that I can then wrap in a thin layer of clay so I can fit them onto Jean's body before building up her muscles. I want her to be grabbing onto the blocks